This is Thomas Lyons from Reps on TV. I'm fortunate to be joined on the phone tonight by unbeaten prospect Ricky Evans. How you getting on, Ricky?
Yeah, I'm very good, mate. Thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not doing too bad myself now. We're just speaking actually there before we went on record about the limits that you're putting your body through and obviously taking its toll closer to fight night. How's training gone in preparation for September 8th?
The preparation for this fight has gone better than ever. I mean, this is my 7th camp now. It's by far the best. I know everyone says that about every camp, but I've literally got no complaints from the first 6 rounder, and I feel, even though it's only 2 rounds more than normal, I feel like I've done a completely different training camp. I feel like I've done a camp where I could go out and fight 12 rounds if I have to, so everything's gone spot on so far, no complaints. I think it's realistically through the first camp I've ever done as well, I've been completely injury free every time. I've not had a session that I can't make, so it's been perfect.
Yeah. And what adjustments have you had to make? Obviously, talking about there, stepping up again to 6 rounder, having to do build the levels, build the rounds round by round. What little adjustments have you made with your training team ahead of the fight?
To be honest, most of it has been quite similar to what we've done before, because I mean, training for a 4-round fight we were training like we were fighting for 6 or 8 round fights, and we were sparring plenty of rounds. But all I've realised, the only real adjustments we've made in the physical side of things is just increasing the duration of each thing we're doing. So the runs have got just slightly longer. The sprints, I'll do a few extra sprints. When I spar, I hit the pads, I'll do a couple of extra rounds. I think 4 rounds and 6 rounds and 8 rounds, I don't think the fitness side of things is too different. It's just about a different pace. So we're just adjusting the pace of maybe slowing the pace down a little bit more in the early rounds and picking up later on, rather than in the 4s where I normally seem to start a bit slow and then pick it up. We're going to be hopefully just up and down the whole way, go through the gears.
Yeah, and I know it's only early stages in your career so far. Are you still training with Barry O'Connell in Hammersmith? Is that the same sort of training camp with you?
Yeah.
Brilliant. How's training gone to that next level with Barry? How's he sort of spurred you on? I know obviously having forged a relationship with Barry throughout your career, how is it important that you've obviously been able to carry this momentum on through to this particular stage in your career at the moment?
I mean, it's been brilliant. So even when I first started with Barry, he had so many fighters and so many lads of all completely different levels and abilities. So I mean, from when I first started, he already knew what he had to do for the boys who were making their debuts in the 4 rounds. He didn't have a lot of amateur experience, all the way up to guys like John O'Donnell, who was in camp at the time, who was fighting for sort of southern areas in English, but should have been in there for things like the British, so top level fighters as well. So no, I mean, he already knew what he's doing. He's a very experienced trainer. He's done the corner for George Groves' world title fights. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I've just always had complete confidence in him. Just turned up to the gym and done what he said, and I think especially in my last sort of 2 or 3 performances has really showed that how the hard work, and it's not even just the hard work. I feel like you can do hard work and get nowhere. It's about being smart with it as well. He knows what we're supposed to be doing, when he wants me to do it, how often he wants me to do it. So I mean, for me, he's been the perfect trainer so far. I've got no complaints. Everything since my debut, everything's improved massively, and it's all down to him, really.
That's great to hear. And I know there's a lot of top class trainers in Britain at the moment, but do you kind of feel that, I mean, with Barry, you just mentioned there being in Groves' corner for, Groves having challenged for the world title and being successful on his 4th attempt. I mean, going under the radar a bit, is it good to sort of see that the progression you've made under Barry, and that, because some trainers are put under the radar, doesn't mean that they can't establish themselves with a stable of fighters that can go on to achieve a lot in the sport?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. You get a lot of these fighters who, a lot of fighters feel like they have to be with one of these trainers who's a top name, for example. But the way I look at it is, for me, Barry knows what he's doing. He's experienced. Everything he's ever asked me to do or wanted from me, he's explained why, and it's worked, or there's been a good reason behind it. So for me, while I'm still improving under him, while I'm still winning, there's no reason to ever think about changing anything. And regardless, even if in the future in my career my career, I did end up changing. Barry would always still be part of the team somehow anyway, because he started me off as a pro. So
Yeah.
when I turned pro, I had very limited amateur experience. Didn't have no backing from anyone other than Steve Goodwin. So Barry was really one of my only choices. Is someone like Barry who's under the radar, but I think I made the right decision at the time, and I'm getting the rewards from it now.
And just for the Raps on TV viewers, Ricky, that are relatively new to the platform and haven't necessarily followed your career to date so far, just talk to us about your amateur background and how that pedigree you've had in the amateurs and making that transition to the pro ranks. How much have you learned over the past few years that you're going to carry with you to when you do challenge for major titles, hopefully in the near future?
Well, I mean, as an amateur, I only had 16 fights, which isn't a lot at all.
Wow.
And they were all actually junior fights. I never had a fight as a senior. So my pro debut was the first time I actually fought a man rather than a kid. So I feel like going into the pros, I had very limited to almost none on the experience-wise. Even as the last few years of amateur, between the age of 15 and 16, I think I only had 2 or 3 fights. But I was permanently in the gym and I was permanently getting ready for fights. I just was really unlucky with injuries and pull-outs last minute. So, no, I feel like going into professional events, I'm sort of learning on the job as I go.
Yeah, of
but
course.
I still feel like having some sort of amateur pedigree in the background, and I might not have been fighting all the time, but I was always in the gym 7 days a week from the age of 8 until 18. So 10 years, I feel like on the technical side of things, I picked up so much. I think my biggest asset is my technical ability is, for me, it might sound biased as I'm saying it, but it's brilliant. So it was just more so when I turned over, adjusting to getting used to fighting the different styles of the journeyman, the fighters who are coming to win, and getting used to being in there with a man, and for 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12 3-minute rounds rather than the 3-2s and the 3-3s that I was used to.
Yeah, I think a lot of emphasis is placed on the amateur scene, and obviously having, like, with the GB setup and the pedigree that fighters acquire there. I mean, there's a lot of emphasis placed on that, but like you just said there, you're learning on the job, and when you do come up against opponents that may be, collision courses down the line. I mean, you're in a stat division at the moment, but like you said there, having learned on the job, I know I've spoken to a lot of fighters. They've said, like, similar to you're really young, like, for a professional boxer, but like having only a few amateur fights in comparison to, say, the likes of a Coley and the recent wave of GB Olympians. When you do come up against someone with that pedigree, do you feel there's going to be sort of bits and bobs that they might not have picked up on that you might have adapted to, having turned over so quickly to the professional game?
I think so, yeah. I feel like you get a lot of people, especially these days, that go in about. Obviously, I would have rather have had the amateur pedigree in a lot more fights, but I don't feel it's something you need to have. I feel like if I eventually go up against someone who's decorated amateurs, gone through the GB squad and the Olympics and all of that, and we get in the ring, I'm still going to be prepared to the best I can.
Yeah.
So I don't see any reason why, just because they fought a lot more times as me as an amateur, it's going to make a difference. Amateur boxing and pro boxing are 2 completely different things. The way I look at it, I've been learning on the job, and I feel like even in just 6 fights, I've improved massively. I feel like if I'd gone back to my debut with the ability and the experience I have now and started again, I would have had a much easier night in all 6 of my fights so far.
Yeah. And how much you enjoying the small hall scene at the moment? Obviously, powering through that. I mean, you seem to sell a lot of tickets, Ricky. You're doing well. Obviously, having that attachment to Brentford and being a big devoted Brentford fan. How important and instrumental is it to have a massive fan base? And I mean, I'm sure it keeps growing day by day. But having the fans with you along the way, how important is it to drive you on?
Oh, it's really important. Without all the fans and the people buying tickets who are supporting my career, I wouldn't have a career.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're talking about, without the amateur pedigree and the GB squad and the Olympics and things like that, I never had the big promoters and the big money men behind me when I turned pro. So without the people buying tickets and paying to watch me, I wouldn't be a professional. I'd still be amateur, or I would have quit boxing, one or the other. So without my fan base, I wouldn't have a career. So I can't thank everyone enough for that. But I feel like being on the small hall scene, but being someone who I'm not the biggest of ticket sellers, but I do well.
Yeah.
Is something I do enjoy, because if I was getting to fight on these big shows and I was a big name from when I turned pro, I'd be getting all the attention. But where I'm doing it through the small hall scene, but I sell more tickets than most people in the small hall scene, it's about the closest I'll get to the sort of the limelight that some of those guys get, because I might have a few more supporters there than most of the other boys on the show when I'm fighting. So I feel like it does spur me on to train even harder than everyone else and make sure every fight I have I'm prepared even better than I was for the one before. So that's what keeps me going, really.
Yeah, I mean, fan bases and, you know, exposure and being on the massive platforms is very cliche in boxing. I mean, everyone wants to be like the, you know, standout performer. And I mean, as you progress and you do get your break onto the major shows, like with Matchroom and Frank Warren and whoever else is leading the wave at the moment in British boxing. I mean, you're always going to pick up fans along the way. Some fans might be, you know, I mean, your most loyal fans are always going to be there, but there is always fans that they sort of side with a fighter when they have a great fight, and then when they are on their sort of lowest day or maybe not up to scratch, then they can always fall off. But like you said, you've acquired a good fan base, and you're looking to continue that as you you know, step up the levels and fight better opposition.
Yeah. And I have noticed what you're saying there, because in obviously my pro debut for me, a lot of other people might not have thought it was the greatest performances, but for me, someone who hadn't had many amateur fights and never boxed as a senior or anything, I thought it was a brilliant performance for me. So then going into my second fight, where I didn't have the best camp and I was in the wrong weight division, and I fought a guy who on paper I should have beat easily, and I didn't. I drew with him in a tough fight. I feel like my ticket sales did quite a bit for my third pro fight, and I did lose quite a lot of sales, but I've had all those loyal supporters, especially the Brentford fans who follow me literally, well, obviously only at your call so far, but they turn up in numbers every time, regardless of if we're playing that day or not. They will make sure they get up there. Without those loyal fans, I wouldn't, like I said earlier, I wouldn't have a career, because I'd have lost most of my ticket sales after a few fights. I'd end up being paying to fight rather than being paid to fight.
Yeah. And speaking about Brentford, it's been a good start for the Bees this year. I mean, obviously dropped. It was a frustrating performance against Villa, but I mean, how do you see Brentford's chances this season, Ricky?
I said it last year, and it never went to plan, so I don't want to hope too much this season. But I do see us making at least the playoffs this season.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to last season, I think it was something like 7 games in before we got our first win. So, I mean, first game of the season this season, it was a 5-1 win. So, no complaints, especially not for a team that's only been in the Championship for 4 seasons. Another top 10 finish I'd be happy with. So, if we can make the playoffs this time, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing with Brentford, they are very, you know, consistent. I mean, year on year, they're always pushing, you know, for at least a top 8 position. And how do you feel that consistency? I mean, looking at it as from a hypothetical situation, how do you feel that it reciprocates towards your career and being consistent with your performances and showing the fans that you are learning and, you know, showcasing different skills each time you're out?
I mean, I feel like the consistency is the hardest thing, but for me at the moment, it's one of the most important things, because if I have a good performance one day and not the next, if I, like my last fight, for example, I feel like I had quite a good performance. So if I was to then go into my next fight, although I've stepped up the opponent, I've stepped up the rounds, if I'm not consistent, I have a bad performance, it might lead quite a lot of the fans to thinking, oh, is he putting in the work he says he is, and blah, blah, blah. They may stop following me, and that's not what I want. I want to just keep building on it. So being consistent with my performances is very important to me.
Yeah, and have you always campaigned at £154, Ricky, or are you looking to maybe drop weight if a massive fight came up on the domestic scene, or are you looking to stick in at light middle?
For now, I'm looking to stick at light middle. I made my debut, and then I had my second. Well, I made my debut at middleweight. My second fight, which I drew, was sort of in between middle and super middle, which is far too big for me.
Yeah.
So it was after that I decided to drop down to £154, fight out super welterweight, and I feel like it's been had a massive impact on my career, because I feel like for the weight, being 6'1" at 154 pound, I'm huge compared to most of my opponents.
I mean, it's a massive stature, isn't it, for someone of like middleweight? I mean, the range and being able to sort of execute the jab and keep opponents at bay is an added bonus, really, isn't it, to have that range?
Going into fights where my opponents have normally got a lot more experience than me. They're a lot older than me, and they've got most other physical assets are in their favour. They're normally, well, not so much now, but a few years ago, they were stronger than me. They were older than me, and more experienced. So I had that height and that size over them. But now, as well as the height and size, I've got more experience than them, and I'm stronger and fitter than them. So I've got every asset in my favour now.
Yeah, and just before we go on to talk about all divisions at the moment are buzzing in the UK particularly, but I mean with the light middleweight scene, sort of there's a young breed of hungry lions, as I like to call them, coming through with the likes of Jaime Munguia, who's just beaten Liam Smith for the world title. So you got Jared Hurd.
I only watched that fight yesterday, and he was impressive.
Oh wow! So do you want to maybe give your assessment of that fight? I was going to ask you, I mean, who do you see at the top of the pecking order on the world scene? But do you want to maybe like break down what your thoughts of that fight were, and maybe any little things you took from it?
I mean, being only 21, is he 21?
Yeah, 21. Yeah.
And being world champion in such a hard weight division is unbelievable as it is. But I thought he technically, I wasn't really impressed. I feel like the footwork was awful, and he sort of tried to overcommit with most punches and swinging and falling. But he's definitely one fit lad, and he's strong and he can hit hard. So I can see him being in the next 3, 4, 5 years a serious problem in that weight. And well, he's got one of the world titles now. I can see him picking up a few more and being the man to beat.
Yeah, and I
did think Liam Smith done himself proud. Obviously, for me, he lost all other than maybe 1 or 2 rounds, but by going into I think it was the 7th, was it the 6th or 7th, something like that, he got put down, and I thought 1 or 2 more rounds.
Yeah, and then he sort of found a second wind, didn't he, to stay in there?
Yeah, and he seemed to pick it up a little bit in the later rounds, and even though he was losing the rounds, they were still quite competitive.
Yeah.
So I thought he'd done himself proud there, and I think that's probably his last shot at a world title now there.
Yeah. I mean, I felt the exact same way. I thought technically Munguia wasn't, the most polished of fighters that I've seen. I mean, in comparison to Charlo or Hurd. But I mean, in terms of like a unification with Jarrett Hurd, I mean, he's having to boil down. I mean, I've seen pictures of him on Twitter.
Hurd is huge,
he's massive for the weight, and I mean, talking about you being 6'1". I mean, it must be hard enough to make light middle, but obviously having the right nutrition and stuff. But for Jarrett Hurd to boil down from that size, I mean, it must be a mammoth challenge for him, camp by camp.
Yeah, he looks like a cruiser when he's not got a fight coming up.
Yeah.
For him to get down is unbelievable.
Yeah, and who do you see, like you touched on there, you see Munguia possibly picking up a few more belts, maybe moving up to middleweight, because they are sort of tipping him to be the next sort of massive star out of Mexico and being sort of another Canelo in a way. But do you see him struggling, obviously, with the technical side of things against someone like Jamel Charlo or Jarrett Hurd?
At the moment, I do, yeah. But I mean, even if he was to fight them now and technically be outgunned, I feel he's got the fitness, he's got the strength, the power to get through it, and he's definitely got the heart. Those Mexican fighters are all tough.
Yeah.
But even if he was to be beat by those guys now, I mean, he's only 21. He's got plenty of years to improve and pick up on things, and maybe that's the only fight of his I have actually seen against him. So maybe he's better than I thought he was, and he just didn't show it that night. But no, I think he's definitely going to have a bit of a struggle with some of those top guys like Hurd and Charlo, technically wise. But I feel like he's got so much time on his hands, he can learn what he has to learn and be the best in the division.
Yeah, and dropping down to the domestic scene at the moment, we've got obviously Liam Williams is sort of borderline fringe, hopefully back in contention for a world title shot. But we've got a big fight coming up in at the Copper Box in September in the new season between Ted Cheeseman and Senior Byfield for the vacant British title. Who do you see coming on top of that fight, Ricky?
I think I'm going to go with what I think most people will be going with, which is Cheeseman to come out on top and win. But I think Byfield is going to be a much harder test for Cheeseman than a lot of people realise. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Byfield win, even though I do feel Cheeseman will probably be the victorious in that one. I think Byfield's just such an awkward fighter, and I'm not sure if I'm right, but he seems to me like he is quite big for the weight.
Yeah, and he does throw a lot of shots from different angles that you sometimes don't really pick up on, which is another sort of uncertain.
With Cheeseman's aggressive come forward style and Byfield's unorthodox all angle punching, it could be quite an interesting fight to watch.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, Cheeseman's, he's obviously come up through, step by step with Matchroom, and he's getting that fight at the right time. And I mean, Byfield's he's an unknown quantity in a way because he hasn't had that massive break onto sort of the caliber of Cheeseman. But I mean, like you said, they're awkward, and he's very difficult to sort of negate in a way because he does throw shots from very unorthodox angles. He does switch hit a lot, and it is quite a hard style to sort of counter in a way. But I mean, Cheeseman, like you said, they come forward aggressive. So I mean, it does make for a great fight. And what's your ambitions for the next, say, 12 to 18 months, Ricky? Do you see yourself possibly challenging for one of those major titles if the opportunity presents itself?
If whatever opportunity comes up, I'll take. But I think realistically, within the next 12 to 18 months, I want to definitely, at the very minimum, be in there for the Southern area, if not the English.
Yeah.
I think, bearing in mind my experience as an amateur and my age, I think things like the British title and Fed's Head might be quite unrealistic for the next 12 to 18 months at the moment. But Southern area, at the very minimum, is what I'd like to be in for the next sort of 12 months. And then pushing on to England within the next few months after that, really.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, like we said there, like being able to take it a step at a time, you are very young, and I mean, I'm sure your best years are ahead of you, and being able to go one step at a time, learn on the job and get those valuable rounds in the bank. Is it a case for you that you just want to, step up one at a time and, with 6-rounder, then an 8-rounder, and then, start to push on for those championship distances?
I mean, having Steve Goodwin as my manager and Barry as my trainer, I feel like they're bringing me on at the right speed. They know what they're doing. I have all my faith and trust in them that if they tell me I'm not ready for something, I'm not ready. If they tell me I am ready, then I know I'm ready. But yeah, at the moment I feel like it's just a case of taking it one step at a time and slowly increasing the quality of the opponents and increasing the rounds. But I feel like I've had enough fights now, so if an opportunity did come up and I was offered something, a big fight against another name, regardless if there's a title on the line or not, if it makes sense, I'm happy to take him. I'll fight anyone as long as Steve and Barry are happy to put me in with them.
Yeah, Steve definitely has the best interests of his fighters. I mean, like all promoters do. I mean, you don't want to push, especially a young fighter, up, expecting them to, challenge for major belts so early on. And I mean, making methodical steps at the right time is definitely going to be something you can look back on and say when you do get to that stage that you were brought along at the right pace. But also as well, sometimes when the opportunity is too big to sort of turn down, it can be a distraction in a way. But I mean,
like I said, I'm happy to just take my time, like we were saying, just go one step at a time. I'm only 20 now. Most people wouldn't even be pro yet, so just take my time. But like you said there, if I get offered the opportunity of a big fight, I'm a fighter. I'm not going to turn it down. I'm going to take it. So whatever. At the moment, it's a case of take it one step at a time. But if any offers come up, then I'm sure, as long as Steve and Barry are happy for me to take it, I'll be taking it.
Yeah, and is a big fight in front of at Griffin Park the dream for you, Ricky, to bring something back to those Brentford fans that have followed you along the way?
I mean, a fight at Griffin Park would be unbelievable, but I feel like with our new stadium being built, which I think I saw yesterday we look to move into in 2020, I feel like a fight of a high enough caliber might be a bit too far away before we move into our new stadium, so I might just miss the opportunity there. But like you said, you never know if that opportunity came up, it'd be massive.
Yeah, brilliant. And What just one sort of bit of advice for someone that's I mean, all boxers out there, but before they turn over to the professional ranks. I mean, you've turned over at a very young age, but obviously very hungry and want to push on and get into contention in the next few years and keep busy. What bit of advice would you give to an amateur boxer or any boxer that's looking to make a professional move? I mean, any bit of advice you'd give, management-wise or?
Management-wise and trainer-wise, I think the only advice I'd give is you get a lot of people who tell you you need to be with someone who's a big name and you need to have a trainer who's in the limelight and a lot of recognition around them, but that's not the case. For me, being with Steve Goodwin and Barry O'Connell as my manager and trainer, I feel like a lot of people might think, oh, they're only small, they're not the big time, they're not got the big names or the big platforms, but for me, it just means that they've got more time and interest to put into me, which means they bring my career on at the right pace, the right speed. So it's all about having who's best for you rather than who's best in like the media's eyes and everyone else. It's just all about making the right decisions and taking advice from the people who have your best interests at heart rather than the people that just want to make some money off you.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, it's been a pleasure having you on the platform tonight, Ricky, and great chatting with you about what's in the pipeline for the next few months. And I mean, I wish you all the best with camp. Wish you all the best for your fight on the 8th, and I'm sure I'll see you down at York Hall for a catch up. So Thomas Lyons, Raps on TV, Ricky Heavens, best of luck, champ, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, mate.
Nice one, mate. Take care. All the best.
And you. Bye.
See ya. Bye. Bye.